What is up, everybody? It's Friday night. It's midnight. We're getting the weekend started right. It's Shooting the Shit Uncensored. It's me, your host, the bald, the beard, the beautiful Piers Austin, and we are brought to you by the MWA Podcast Network. Guys, I've got a really special guest tonight. I have Mr. Aaron O'Malley. He's an Australian professional wrestler who's currently living over in the UK. Well, I should say stuck over in the UK due to obviously what's been happening here in the world with COVID-19. We're going to get into that and much, much more. But guys, before I bring out Aaron, Mr. Mean Man O'Malley himself, I'm going to take a quick pause to thank some sponsors who help us keep these colorful lights going at the MWA Podcast Network studios. First up is the Wrestling Universe. Now, guys, let me tell you something about the Wrestling Universe. These guys are your one-stop shop for all your wrestling merchandise. They have all kinds of WWE, TNA, UFC, WCW, ECW, action figures, past and present. They carry t-shirts, wrestling cards, autographed 8x10s, masks, belts, and much, much more. And guys, if you are in Queens, New York, they also have in-store signings with some of the biggest names in professional wrestling. They've just had Prince Nana in there. They've also had in Kurt Angle. They've also had in Darby Allin, Sting, and many more, guys. So make sure if you're in New York, go and check out these signings. Meet some of your heroes. Guys, all autographed items come with a certificate of authenticity. And if you're like myself and Mr. O'Malley and you don't live in the United States, they ship internationally. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world, the Wrestling Universe has got you covered. So guys, check them out and you will not be disappointed. But guys, my next sponsor is healthvape.com. Now, healthvape.com is your healthy vaping alternative. Yes, that is right, a healthy vaping alternative. All products are no nicotine, no artificial chemicals. They're actually vitamin infused. Guys, I'm a former cigarette smoker, as I've said many, many times. I'm now a vapor person thing. I don't know. I'm one of those tools I carry around a vape. All right. My wife's been busting my balls. She goes, you need to quit that. This is my road to quitting that and to quitting everything is Health Vape. I've got a box of these things coming in and I'm really looking forward to trying them and trying a healthy vaping alternative and then going on to nothing. So this is the way to do it. And guys, once you're done with your healthvape.com, you need to use promo code MWAPOD to get that 10% discount. But once you've done with HealthVape, head over to sleeves.com. Now, if you're an athlete or someone you know is an athlete, you need to check out sleeves.com, guys. They have arm sleeves, knee sleeves, compression pants, compression tights, socks, joggers, boxes, dirty boxes, I should say. I've got to tell you guys, these dirty boxes, they sent me a whole bundle of these things, and they are the most comfortable boxes that I own. Like, seriously. And I got a fucking elephant in the front of them. Like, come on, guys, that's pretty fucking funny, right? So check out sleeves.com. You know, definitely check out their amazing products. Use promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount off your final purchase. Now, guys, we got a big weekend coming up on the MWA Podcast Network tomorrow at 10 a.m. Australian time, which is 8 p.m. USA Eastern. It is Killing the Business with former ECW original, The Kingpin, Angel Medina, King Mega, and Glenn Sexton. They're going to be breaking down everything that's been going on in the world of professional wrestling. And you know, Angel, he turns up and he's got no filter. He just says whatever comes to mind. We've tried to rein him in. It just doesn't work. So, guys, it makes it for entertaining as fuck. Something to watch, to listen to. So you need to check out Killing the Business. And guys, this Sunday at 9 p.m. USA Eastern, which is 11 a.m. on Monday morning Australian time, tune in for Knights of the Gimmick Table with Boogaloo and Lowrider, the Dead Presidents. They're going to be joined by their guest, their very good friend who they came up with in the business, Homicide. So you don't want to miss that. And guys, as well, we've also just had on another amazing episode of the Get Funked podcast with Alan Kiwi Funk, former WCW and TNA star. He had on his good buddy Chad Fortune. Guys, if you're an old school WCW fan or an old school TNA fan, you need to check out Get Funked because Alan's had on some amazing guests, some good friends of his that he's trained with at the WCW power plant, telling some amazing stories. And you know what? It kind of takes me back to my childhood. And he's had on some amazing guests as well, guys. So make sure you go and check that out. And also Shooting the Shit Uncensored. We come to you multiple times a week. We're giving you some of the best wrestling interviews in the fucking world. So MWA Podcast Network has got you covered from top to bottom for all pro wrestling entertainment and news. But guys, without further ado, I'm going to bring out my guest already, Mr. Aaron O'Malley. Aaron, thanks for coming on, brother.
Oh, no worries, man.
Man, it's great to have you on, man. As I was sort of, I put a tweet out, I think last week, and I was saying, like, man, we're in lockdown. I want to do as many podcast interviews that I can with people, and your name popped up, man, and I was really interested when I started like reading about your story, man. And you're originally from Perth, correct?
Yeah. So I was born in Tassie, but started my wrestling career in Perth. I've just kind of lived all over the shop, basically, but Perth is where I've spent most of my adult life, pretty much.
Yeah, man. And, professional wrestling, over in Perth, there's quite a few promotions over there. Where did you get your start in the business?
So it's weird. I didn't start until I was like 25 years old. And because I was a fan of it as a teenager and stuff, but growing up in Karratha, where I'm from originally, which is like way up north, there was like the thought of ever being a pro wrestler just never entered my mind. You know what I mean? Because I was just so far away from everything. So it wasn't until I was 25, my wife was working at a hospital, and she was taking care of Mana, the Polynesian warrior, who had like a serious back injury from wrestling, and like was like chatting with her, and she told me about it, and I was just like, you're taking care of someone who was badly injured through wrestling? Sure, that sounds like a great thing to do. So at the age of 25, I just started training and really getting into it. And it was weird because like around that time, it was around 2011, I'd sort of had like a few years away from wrestling. Like, I think that all the stuff that happened in the mid 2000s with like Eddie Guerrero and then Benoit and stuff just really just sort of took away a lot of my love. But when I, around 2011, I really started getting back into it again, and just really started finding a love for it. So I started with New Horizons Pro Wrestling in Perth, the tail end of 2011, and I've never looked back.
Yeah, and you mentioned Mana. So Mana, he was the one that sort of broke you in to the business. I've actually got a couple of buddies from the US who I think know him. They've mentioned him before, and I'm like, because being in Sydney and Perth, there's a kind of like a little bit of a disconnect with some of the Aussie local thing for me because it's hard to get access to it. But I've heard them mention him before. So obviously he's someone who is very well known and also well respected. But how did you find like going from being fan into professional wrestler, like the training process? How was that for you going into it?
It definitely, I didn't take to wrestling naturally. Like a lot of people seem to like instantly just get everything down straight away. It took a while to develop all the skills. The like physical side of things, like getting used to bumping and all that definitely took a little while. I never really had a huge problem. Like I see so many guys starting off have a massive issue with like cardio and conditioning and stuff, but I was always just really stubborn and I refused to give up on anything. So that was never really a major issue with me. But there was definitely like, it definitely gave me a lot of respect for what pro wrestlers do and everything. But there was that like, definitely like a long period where it took a long time for all the pieces to sort of fall into place, and for me to actually sort of get an understanding of how it all works. And I feel like I've been at it for nearly 10 years now, and I'm still learning about it every day, so it's still an ongoing process.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, if you're hungry for it, you're continually wanting to learn and get better and perfect certain things. And, when I speak to some wrestlers, it's always been like, hey, what's your favorite match? I don't know. I haven't had it yet. But, when you got into it, did you have like any clear set goals of like, where you wanted to take it? Was it just like, or was it step by step? Okay, let's get in there, train, get one match under my belt, see how that is and go from there? Or was it like, no, this is a clear set goal of where I want to go?
Yeah, I definitely starting out, I really didn't know. I was just sort of like, dipping my toe into the water. I was just every new experience, I'd just take it as it came and just like, I didn't have any clear set goals. It was just sort of like, well, I'll keep going. I hope they'll go onto a show. And then, well, I've been on a couple of shows. Maybe one day I'll win a title. And then after that happened, it's like, oh, maybe I'll travel and stuff, you know. So it always sort of built up. And it wasn't until I think once I went to visit the US when I was about 2 or 3 years in, I think, just for a couple of weeks, because obviously I was trained by Mana. So I went up to like Pennsylvania to train with his old trainer, Supremely Great, who had just started opening up a school over there. And I went to train at CZW and stuff. And that was when I just sort of really like seeing the level those guys were at. And I think we got given a lot of crap initially, like going over there, because it's just sort of like, oh, you guys don't get to train very often. You don't get to put on many shows and stuff. But then I saw the level of quality over there and I was like, oh, we're just as good. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I feel like if I actually put my all into this from this point on, I'll really get somewhere with it, you know? So I think that was the real sort of driving point where I was like, I really want to take this to the next level. I want to travel around the world. I want to wrestle everywhere that I can. I mean, in terms of like getting a contract and stuff, I don't know. I don't see it at this stage of my life, but if it happens, it happens, you know?
Yeah. Opportunities can come just out of the blink of an eye in the wrestling business. And
yeah. It's crazy.
A lot of times you've seen it, but, you know, going over to the US, how did you find as far as like the differences between the Australian product and the American product? Because different parts of wrestling, whether it be like British wrestling and, you know, US wrestling and Australian wrestling, have you found there's a difference between those sort of genres? Like going into the US, was there any differences in the training that they were doing?
Not massively. I'm trying to think. Like, it was a lot less structured than what I was expecting, you know what I mean? Like, it could, and it's also, you got to remember, like, I only went to Pennsylvania, which is where, like, Chikara was and CZW currently is and stuff like that. So I can't speak to all of the US and all the different schools up there and stuff.
Well, I meant the ones you went to, yeah.
Yeah. But, like, it wasn't super different to what we'd normally do. You know what I mean? Like, in terms of, like, just do your cardio drills and everything when you start up, and then go through bumps and then go through drills in the ring and stuff like that. It also differed so much from school to school, you know, like some trainers take it super seriously and have a very structured sort of thing. And then other trainers are just sort of just, you know, like, what we're going to do today? I guess we'll just, you know, do internationals and stuff. And just, you know, like they're just like, there's not as much like structure there. In terms of like shows, I definitely felt like the couple of shows I saw when I was there, they were a lot more bloated than what the ones we have in Australia are. Like there's a lot more matches, and, you know, like some people are good at like structuring a show and keeping it like relatively like streamlined and everything. But like some people just go on forever, and that's,
well, that's the thing, man. Like putting too many matches on a card can burn your audience out as well.
Like, yeah, I'll never understand like how promoters can decide to like put 8 or 9 matches on a card. Like, I will get into it later, but like the first ever show I did for Asia Wrestling Entertainment, which is the AWE I was talking about in Twitter, by the way, in case anyone is thinking I'm talking about the Australian Federation. I think there was 11 matches on that card, and it's just exhausted. And that was to an audience that hadn't seen wrestling. Well, very few of them had seen wrestling before, you know, like it's a new audience, so you're just going to burn them out. You know what I mean? Like,
but also then if it's a new audience that hadn't seen wrestling as well, like, you know what I mean? Like that can sometimes be a pretty flat crowd and hard to sort of perform in front of.
Oh yeah. I've had that a few times. That the first crowd we had over there, it was like in front of like 750 people. So it was actually, and like they got into it, you know what I mean? Like, but definitely the shows we had beyond that point, and the last show I had over there was dead. There was nothing. People just didn't know how to react. you get a lot of that over here, honestly. Like,
Really?
because yeah, the big thing, like when I moved over here, it wasn't so much to do the local like British shows; it was to work the camps. Do you know much about the camp scene in the UK?
Not a great deal, and that was something I wanted to sort of get in and ask you about, because I've seen that you have worked a fair bit for WAW, which is the Knights
Yeah,
promotion, and probably one of the top promotions over there, if I'm correct.
yeah, it's one of the bigger promotions in the company, in the country, and a lot of that is just they run super regularly, and they also take part in like the camp circuit, which is just it. It's a funny thing like to think of as an Australian, because there's nothing quite like it here down there. But like basically, British people, when they go on holiday during the summer, right, rather than like going to a hotel somewhere or something like that, they go to these like summer camps. It's mostly like middle and lower class sort of families, you know, so they're not super expensive. They go to these little summer camps that are like placed generally near beachside and near rivers and stuff like that. So the families have like places to visit and stuff, and you know, seaside attractions and all that kind of thing. And inside the actual camps themselves, there's entertainment and stuff put on for the fans. So you've got, you know, the little casino, you've got like places for like kids to play games and stuff like that. And part of the entertainment, you know, obviously you've got like magic shows and dancing and all that stuff, and you've also got professional wrestling. So
It sounds like my kind of my kind of holiday.
Yeah, well, I don't know that I've had to like spend night after night in those little chalets, and they kind of like, it's like you took the wheels off a caravan, you know what I mean? Like there's not much room in there, and it's just like this tiny little box that you sort of stay in, because the main thing is you're not spending time there. You're sort of going out and exploring the city and stuff and going to the beach. But it is fun. And obviously those shows that we're putting on for those families, they're not there to see like WWE or whatever. Generally they're just there as like, oh, there's a show on tonight, let's go see it. So they might not even know what wrestling really is. You know what I mean? Like some of the kids are definitely like WWE fans, but you know, not all of them. So you really just sort of have to play things up like super, what do you call it, like pantomime and all that. Like you really have to sort of be a lot more like out there than what you would. Flamboyant than what you would on a regular show. So, and they actually get like, you know, for crowds in Australia and for most shows, like obviously the crowd knows how to react. They know what they're supposed to react to. If they're brought along by friends, they'll sort of get the hint pretty quickly. But because these shows are for non-fans, they'll have like an announcer beforehand, like saying, oh, make sure you boo the bad guys and make sure you cheer the good guys, and, you know, like clap along and stuff like that. You know, try and cheer them on when the good guys trying, you know, to fight back. And so, yeah, it's just like, it's
an uphill battle, man, when the announcer's got to try and get the crowd to sort of cheer and boo, though, you know.
Thing is, it would be an uphill battle if it was adults, but because it's mostly kids, those kids get into it. Even if they don't have any idea of what's going on, they understand that one guy is acting like a dickhead, one guy's, you know, being all friendly to everyone. So it's like they know who to cheer for, they know who to boo for, and they get into it. You know what I mean? So, and like it's so much easier doing those shows than what it is doing normal shows, because there's not that many types of matches. You know what I mean? Like we kind of sort of stick to a pretty simple structure. You know, like when you're working on a normal show in front of like an educated crowd, you know, you've got to try and give them something that maybe haven't seen in a while, you know what I mean? Or ever, if possible. But for these kids, it doesn't really matter, you know, like you keep everything simple. You know what you're doing pretty much every step of the way. It's always like a super simple structure. And the main thing is just, you know, try and keep them entertained.
Oh, so, 100%.
Yeah.
But how have you found, you know, working for the Knights, like working for the shows? Have you had a chance to go and, you know, train at their academy? Because, you know, they've had some amazing talent go through those doors.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, I train there like pretty much every week. Like that, they've got like a big open center with like initially I had like 3 rings set up, but now there's like 2, I think. So, but yeah, there's normally like at least a couple of different rings set up, and you could just book time in there and train with your friends. And then they have like camps on the weekends where they'll like training camps where they'll like do a full 2 days worth of training, and then probably shows after as well. So yeah, I've trained and wrestled pretty much every member of the Knight family at some point. So it's it's been like that. That was something like I came here. The reason why I'm over here now is because after the whole debacle with Asia Wrestling Entertainment and all that, I came here and lived for 5 months just doing the camps and stuff.
Yeah.
And obviously coming back to Australia, I was just like, back to normal. You know what I mean? Like get a regular job. I'm not making money through wrestling anymore. It's like, except for the odd payment every odd weekend, so.
Yeah.
So it was just sort of like, I really want to come back. And that was when my wife was just like, well, why don't we just actually properly move over here, So, yeah.
Wow. And you just decided to make that change. And like, was, Norfolk the area that you sort of decided to sort of move to because of training there? Like, was that sort of the main goal of going there, getting on WAW shows?
Honestly, my goal is just to wrestle all across the UK. Like, that's been the suckiest thing, is that as soon as I got over here, like, because I worked here previously and I'd known the Knights, Soraya Knight like had a hand in like training me, because she did shows with Mana down in Perth. So she trained me a whole bunch of times, so she knew who I was and how I wrestled and everything, and she was pretty happy to put me on shows.
Yeah.
So I forgot where I was going there.
That's all right.
What was the question again?
I was saying, were you, when you were going to plan to move over there, was like Norfolk the area the place that you wanted to base yourself at?
Well, yeah, this is where I went the last time I was here. Obviously, because I came over to work on camp, so I was sort of based in Norfolk, in Norwich, and I was just like sleeping on another wrestler's couch for like 3-4 months before I managed to get my own place for a couple of months, and then had to leave. So yeah, like that. Like my goal coming over here was just sort of like just wrestle, train wherever I can. You know what I mean? Like just absorb as much information as possible. But yeah, it just kind of sucks that like I got here in March of last year, I think.
Yeah.
So we got to put on 1 show, and then everything went into lockdown. And it was so like, it just destroyed me, because I was just like, as soon as I got in, like I talked to Soraya and all that, and they basically said to me, look, we need you full time on these camps. Like, you're going to be wrestling full time for a living for the next like couple of months or whatever. And I was like, cool. I don't have to worry about looking for another job. I can just focus on that. And I'm doing what I love.
100%.
And within a week, that was all gone.
Jesus.
So,
and like, and that's the thing, like, since COVID hit, have you, because like, did you want to come back to Australia? Like, was that something that you and your wife were going, all right, we need to get back home when this was happening? Or was it like, well, we're here, we might as well just sit it out?
Yeah. Thing is, like, Australia shut its borders like very quickly. So it became like there were very limited numbers that were allowed back in. Like flights were super limited and all that. And then, like, because they've only got so many tickets, a lot of the tickets that are available are like first class and all that. So a little bit out of my price range, so.
Sure.
Yeah, no, it was hard, because Australia didn't seem like an option to go back to just yet. And also, like, Australia was under lockdown at that stage as well. So it's sort of like, well, we're going to move back home to go back into lockdown in a different country and just wait things out there. Like, how are we going to play this? So we ended up just making the decision to stay, and I got lucky. I managed to find work to do from home and all that. So, we've managed to make it work this whole time. But it's just, yeah, like, to be honest, those first like 6 months or so, like, I caught up with all the friends I made the last time I was here, and then I didn't see them again for another 6 months. I was just like, it's so depressing too, because it's just like I'm in this like country that I haven't been in years, and I only know a few people here, and it's like I'm all by myself. Wife's at work most days, and it's just like, God, like, what do I do with myself?
Yeah, it's hard.
Other than like working out from home every day and trying to play more video games and stuff, it's not much to keep me busy.
How do you feel about like the UK like fully opening up right now? Because it's almost like, hey, we're just going to learn to live with it. Almost like the Drago thing. If they die, they die. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's the way it kind of is. It's like, yeah, fuck it. We're sick of being in lockdown. Like, do you feel like they're jumping the gun a little bit by opening everything up?
I feel like it, yeah. Especially because my wife is working over here as a nurse. Like, I'm over here, but pretty much on her visa. Like, it was her decision to move over here, so she gets to see it firsthand, just like how bad it can get. And obviously, like, with the vaccination rates and everything over here, it's a lot better than what it was. Like, it peaked massively before Christmas of last year, and it was the same thing where the government was just sort of like, well, we want the economy to keep going, so we're just going to keep everything open, and it was they had this like, what was it called? They had a promotional thing where they're actually paying restaurants to have more people in and stuff like that. Like,
Jesus,
it seems like a very ill thought out idea when you're trying to like battle against like a spreading disease, but they did it, and then it spread really bad, and deaths were up significantly. There was a lot of hospitalizations. Hospitals are going through a lot of issues, and then towards the end of last year, they just shut it all down. And now, we're sort of going through the same process. Like, the cases are spiking about the same rate, but deaths and hospitalizations are down quite a bit. So it's weird. I don't know how to feel about it. Like, we're a lot better. We're in a much better position than what we were last time, Yeah. But I still worry that, like, there's still like 10-15% of the population that has been vaccinated. Some people just can't get it, or they have health problems that could get in the way, or like, and the vaccination isn't 100% effective. Like, there are people who are still going to become pretty badly sick no matter what. So I don't know. It's definitely like, I thought for sure, with the way things were turning, that we wouldn't be completely opened up like this past week or so, but I guess they just made the decision to do it anyway, and we'll see what happens, like,
that's the thing, man. Governments make decisions. It unfortunately doesn't matter how the people actually feel. It's just if they go, yeah, we're not making money. We need money sort of coming in and get the economy going.
Yeah.
But at what risk? You know what I mean?
That's the thing. Yeah. All we can do is wait and find out. I just feel bad for my wife, because obviously she's working at the hospital, and she's going to have to deal with the fallout of it. If things do get bad, it's going to take
100%.
months to sort of fix, and she'll be dealing with that, the whole time. So,
and it's risky for her too, being working in there.
Yeah, no, it's like, she didn't have to be, because she has a couple of different health problems. She doesn't have to work so much on the front line, but now that she's been vaccinated, they're trying to push her to anyway. So we'll see.
100%. But we touched briefly on Asia Wrestling Entertainment, and there's a lot I want to get into that, because we were talking briefly before the show started. And we talk about promotions who can run pretty well and run to a pretty good regiment, and other promotions, as you mentioned, having like 10 to 11 matches on the card. What do you think was there good things about Asia Wrestling Entertainment, or was it always, from what you saw once you got there, just run very, very poorly from the start?
So that was the thing. the reason why I stuck around was because from that first show, it looked like there was money being put into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I remember I'd been privately contacted a little while before that about going down over there, and it was like, come over to Malaysia, become a full-time wrestler. We have, we're going to have this whole gym set up and everything for you guys to train in, and there'll be like possible merchandising deals and all this stuff. And at that stage, I've been working at my job for like 10 years. You know what I mean? Like at the same place. So I was just like, I just need a change. I'm just going to take a chance at this and see what happens. And in terms of like how the place was run, like every aspect of it had massive flaws. Like it really would have been good if before we put on that first show that everyone had a chance to sort of like wrestle and train with each other and all that. You know what I mean? Like we pretty much just went in there blind. You know what I mean? Like against all different.
Were they picking people from all over the world, like bringing like a couple from the States, a couple from the UK, a couple from Australia, or was it?
Yeah, that was pretty much the plan. Like from Australia, there was me and Wham Bam Bellows, and then like as the full-time wrestlers, and then at the same time they brought over like Shazza McKenzie and Rufio for that first show. And then they had like a couple of big international names. They had British Strong Style on their first show, along with the Hurricane in the main event. So it was a pretty packed show in terms of like, well, obviously it had way too many matches, you know what I mean? So it was just filled to the brim because it wasn't just those internationals. The big idea behind Asia Wrestling Entertainment was, we're doing this in Southeast Asia. We're going to try and get all these sort of like Southeast Asian countries on board. So it wasn't just Malaysia, it was Singapore, it was the Philippines. I think they were trying to get, they had a couple of wrestlers over from China as well. It's from, I'm trying to think if it was Hong Kong specifically. Sorry. So yeah, it was just this huge multicultural thing. And like, for me,
it actually sounds cool on paper.
Well, that's the thing, yeah, and that's why I stuck around, is because I made a whole bunch of friends with like all the Singapore and Malaysian and Filipino wrestlers. Like it was a wild night. You know what I mean? Like hanging out afterwards and like talking wrestling stories with all these people who I'd never heard of before. And they're all in there. All the Southeast Asian wrestling scene is so new. You know what I mean? Like it didn't start until like the mid 2010s, I want to say. Like that's when you had a couple of like wrestlers over there who were being trained, and then they sort of traveled around and trained other people. Like it's all super fresh. So there's so much potential there, and the whole idea of AWE was like to try and harness it, But it really just came down to the owner of it. He was this British guy who'd like previously like sold like quiz shows to television and stuff, and he was convinced that he could sell this wrestling idea to television networks and all that. And like he gave us contracts where we basically had to sign away pretty much all our likenesses and all that. And I was just like, no, until you show me any like proof that all this is going to work out, I'm not going to sign it.
100%.
And I was smart that I didn't, because nothing like, basically we did that first show. It was like super fun, really bloated. The ring started to fall apart like midway through the show. I remember British Strong. I was like in the second half, right? British Strong Style was the main event of like the first half. And I forget who it was, but they came through the curtains. So they're just like, it's a fucking ring hole in the middle of the fucking ring. The finish was supposed to be this big superplex spot, and they were like, no, we're not going anywhere near it. They just hit their finishes like on the outsides, basically towards the ropes, and then like did a 3-way pin sort of thing. And I was just like, I remember as soon as he told me that, I was like, wait, there's a hole in the ring? Like, yeah, it's like massive, you just make sure you avoid it. So I was lucky. When I showed up that night, I was told, oh, you're going to have a a hardcore match, you know, like use chairs and all this stuff. And I was just like, I'm in a country I've never been to before. I don't know what the healthcare system here is like. I'm not going to like risk like getting cut open or something like that. Like I'll do something else, you know. And they basically told me, okay, well, have a crowd brawl before the match, make your way to the ring, and then have a short match in there. And that was easy. Like I had so much fun because pretty much every other heel that came out that night, because you know they were all relatively new wrestlers at the time. They're all just kind of playing like the cool heel, you know what I mean? Like I'm better than you and all that. So I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to snarl at these guys. I'm going to like try and kick their hands when they reach out to like get a high five and stuff, and yell at them and scream at them. And I terrified a whole bunch of them, and it was great. Like they were
the crazy white man from Australia.
Yeah. So they were genuinely like, whoa, what the hell is this? Which is exactly what I wanted, you know, like, and it was totally different to whatever had happened before. So, but yeah, I ended up having my match. We pretty much just avoided the dead center of the ring. And then, yeah, it was only like, it ended up only being like a couple of minutes, but it was real good fun. And, you know, it was such a positive experience, even with the ring falling apart and all that. And even with it being a bloated show, I saw the level of production that was going on, and I was just like, yes, I want to be here. I want to give this a shot, you know, like, I quit my job. I went down to Tassie to stay with my family over Christmas, because this happened around like, I think it was December of 2018, I think. No, 2017. Sorry. And you know, I was excited until I came back, and you know, I caught up with all my roommates, because there was like 4 of us living together basically. Like there was me and Wham Bam Bellows from Australia. There was Mika. I forget what he calls himself. The Polish Hammer. That's right, from Poland. But he was living in the UK at the time, so he's the one who brought in British Strong Style and all that.
Yeah.
And then there was a guy from Canada called Billy Swade, who had because he's Filipino, his family is Filipino. He'd been wrestling for the Philippine Wrestling Revolution over there. So that was how he was brought in.
Wrestling's big over there, man.
Yeah.
Wrestling's big.
No, that was the worst thing. Like, it was really hitting a good stride before COVID, you know, like, and it sucks because it seems like nearly all of those shows, pretty much all across Southeast Asia, have just had to shut up shop, you know, like, I think Malaysia Wrestling Entertainment, I think, what's it called? Sorry, just give me a sec. The Malaysian, there is a new Malaysian company. I'm just trying to think, but they've been doing no fan shows. And like, I think they had a couple of fans in the last couple, and they've maybe had to nix them now. So it's like, you know, all those guys have pretty much had to be without wrestling for the past year and a half now, you know.
That's rough, man.
It just sucks because like, it definitely, like, I felt it when I was over there, you know, like, it's like, this is a scene that's growing, and it would be really cool to be a part of it. And, you know, it's just a shame that I went to wrestle for someone who really didn't know what they were doing, you know, like.
Do you think that's what the downfall was with AWE? Like, this guy just didn't get or grasp what professional wrestling was. He just thought, this is something I could sell.
Yeah, that's part of it. Like, that he didn't know how to sell the product. And I just don't think he wasn't a good person in general, you know, like, he was a bullshitter, and he was a real, like, fake it till you make it kind of guy.
Perfect for pro wrestling.
It's just, it's funny to me that, like, one of the most carny people I've met in pro wrestling was someone who previously had never been involved in pro wrestling, you know, like, supposedly he was just like selling TV shows and stuff. But yeah, like, he sold us all on the idea that, you know, he had tons of money coming in, and he was just like, oh, any day now, this check's going to clear, and then I'll, you know, like, when I got back over there, which is what I was trying to say before, is that, like, we were told, oh, we're moving you guys into new accommodation, you know? And I was like, cool, that sounds fun. And I rock up, and it's this downtrodden, disgusting little apartment. And it's because none of the guys had checked it out before they rented it. They looked at photos and they were like, yeah, it's good enough. And then they just rented it. So we just sort of rock up to this dirty little apartment, and we're just like, oh, okay. This is a bit of a downgrade from what we had before. And
got to cut costs, brother.
The cost cutting didn't stop there. Because, yeah, like initially it was supposed to be, we were going to be spread across 2 different apartments, but we all had to stay in the same one for the time being. Obviously, that second apartment never came, you know, so one of us just had to live out in the lounge room, basically, while everyone else had a room. But yeah, we're just pretty much stuck there every day, just like slowly losing our minds, you know, because it's just sort of like, well, when's the next show? Like, who knows, you know? Are we supposed to be doing TV tapings? Like, yeah, at some stage.
Did he try and lock anyone in for a contract, or was it like, because you mentioned like he tried to get you guys contracted, like, or was that just a licensing, or was that like a lock-in exclusivity contract as well?
It was supposed to be a lock-in exclusivity contract. And, you know, I was like, oh, I had a lawyer friend look over it and stuff. And, you know, he made a bunch of changes, and I just brought it to him and was like, here, can you address these? And he was like, sure, I'll get around to it eventually. That's as far as things got, you know, like, so I was supposed to sign exclusivity and all that, but obviously never happened, you know? So
was he putting the show? Was this guy also like booking the cards, or did he have someone in there who kind of had an idea of how to book a wrestling show?
He had someone in there. He had the guy who was running Malaysia. Malaysia Pro Wrestling. What's his name? I'm trying to think now. Shortcat. He was like, he ran the first ever wrestling school in Malaysia, started the first ever company there, you know, like, he'd been doing it for a while. He was pretty trusted. And that was one of the, like, because he was my first contact, you know, like, I'm not going to just travel to another country, you know, sight unseen. I was like, I asked around, like, is he legit? And everyone pretty much told me, yeah, he's a good person. He knows what he's doing. But unfortunately, he got sucked in just like the rest of us. You know what I mean? Like, he got promised a lot of things that just never really ended up happening, you know? So he was the booker. And he had like a bit of outside help from other people. Like, they brought in this guy from somewhere in like South America, I forget. Like, he was also like a big TV host over there and all that. So they brought him in, and he helped with the card and stuff as well. I don't know what made him a good booker, but he was asked to help. So, but yeah, like, so he was the one who contacted me, and he was who I thought we were all going to be working for, you know? It wasn't until I got over there that I realized, there's this British guy who's actually running everything behind the scenes. And then over time, like, he pissed everyone off, and that was pretty much all who we ended up working for, you know? So, like,
but that's the thing. People like who obviously get into those sort of positions in pro wrestling, and obviously like pro wrestling is notorious for people with empty promises and like, hey man, we got this promotion. It's going to be the fucking biggest thing since WWE launched in. You know what I mean? Like, you speak to a lot of the veterans, and they've heard that story probably a million times.
Oh yeah, you know? It's one of those things where it's like, I just kind of hoped it wouldn't happen to me, you know, like maybe this time is going to be different, but nah.
But even then, like, someone gives you an opportunity to go and wrestle full time, you know, in another country. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, it'd be pretty hard not to get excited about it though.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was my mindset. Like, I came in like very like, you know, trepidatious, sort of just like, I'm just going to see what happens, and we'll go from there. And it really was just that first show just being so much fun, where I was like, yeah, I want to stick onto this. And then over the course of the next like 3 months, every one of us just sort of got more and more fed up with everything, and the all the fake promises and all the bullshit lines we were being fed, and we're going to bring in all these international names, and it's just like, no, you're not. Yeah. Like, why are you shooting for the moon? Like, why not have small, realistic goals that we can cross? Like, I don't know. It's just, it all seemed very...
And get the local guys over.
Yeah. Like, and that was kind of my mindset, was like, I know I'm like an international talent being brought in. I'm here to help bring these local guys over. And because they've had less years wrestling than me, like also help them, get better, like get more experience playing to a crowd and all that, like. So, yeah, I was happy to sort of fulfill that role, but yeah, unfortunately it just, I can tell you the moment where I finally decided to get up and leave. And I did one more return show after this, which I think could be a whole podcast in itself, because the whole story from start to finish is insane. But I will say, the thing that got me to quit initially was he was like, okay, we're definitely going to do TV tapings starting like 2 weeks from now. And I was like, cool, that sounds great. Are you sure you're going to have the money to like cover all this and like get it all sorted? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. And you know what we're going to do if we don't? What I've done is, instead of selling tickets, I've put everyone into a lottery, and I'm just going to pretend none of them won. And we've recorded the shows, but none of the people like know that the shows are happening. You know what I mean? Like, they're just going to lie to the fans and tell them, oh, yeah, a bunch of winners have gone and seen these live tapings that aren't actually happening. And I remember just like listening to him say that, I was just like, that's the worst idea in the world. What, you think the fans are going to talk to each other? You think like everyone in the same message group or whatever isn't going to figure out that not one of them got a ticket, and no one knows when or where these tapings are happening. And when the tapings, if they do happen, like, we're obviously going to be starting from like ground zero. Like, we're not, going to be continue on non-existing storylines. It's just everything about his mentality just like didn't make any sense to me. So as soon as those tapings got cancelled, I was just, no, out of here. That's it. We only did 2 shows that whole time. The second show he did like on the border between Singapore and Malaysia. And there was like maybe 100 fans there, which was like a massive downgrade from like the 750 we had at the first show, Yeah. And it's because it was like an 8-hour drive away, like his mentality was like, oh yeah, like Singapore fans will come over and see the show. It's just like, even for them, that's probably like a 2-hour journey. That's crossing the border, all the expenses involved in that. Like, you really have to love wrestling if you want to go through all that, it just doesn't make any sense to me. And
man, I love wrestling, but driving for 2 hours, fuck that. Like, sorry, bro. Like, I ain't down for that.
Yeah. So I think that really just sort of like set me down a path too, where I was just like, I spent my whole time in Malaysia just sort of just waiting around doing nothing, for months on end. It was the 4 of us all there together. They were all single, so they were getting up to stuff. Obviously, I'm a married man. I was pretty much just by myself, like, cool. I'm going to play video games in my room. You guys do whatever.
So, yeah. Did they try? Did the promoter try and keep you there? Like, when you sort of went, hey, look, I'm going to bounce from this. Was it like, was there saying, hey, look, just sit it out, we got this going, or did you already see through that bullshit?
Yeah, we'd already seen through that bullshit. We were all pretty much done. But like, we were bitching like months before the end, and we all sort of saw what was the writing on the wall. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to think now. Like, yeah, as he talked to us, like, basically like, oh, you know what? Go home for a couple of weeks, maybe a month or so, and then when you come back, we'll get right back into taping. We'll springboard this whole thing, and we'll get right back into it again, you know? And like, as soon as,
He's just working everybody.
Yeah. And it was just like, no, you're not. If I've seen what the process has been for these past few months, you know, like that's, you know, I'd like to believe with all my heart, I wanted to believe it was going to happen, but you know, I knew that like the whole thing was going to fail. So yeah, pretty much as soon as those tapings were cancelled, like I decided I was going to fly home. Wham Bam Bellows flew back to Adelaide. Another friend of Billy Swade flew back to Canada, you know, and he had next to no money. So he was like, he desperately needed like the promoter to pay for it and all that. So, but yeah, we just kind of all figured that we were going to be cutting our losses. But the weird thing is that Mika, the Polish guy who, you know, who come in to wrestle with us and everything, he was like, nah, I'm going to stick around for a bit. And he ended up staying there for like a whole year, pretty much.
Wow.
Like, he ended up like getting a family and stuff over there. And all he was doing was just the same thing that we were doing, like sitting around in a hotel, you know what I mean? Like, or an apartment, like just waiting for stuff to happen. And
but was he paying you guys each week? Like you guys always got paid, or was it always like sometimes you would, sometimes you wouldn't?
That was the first sign that things were going wrong, was the first payment being late. And we got paid in full that first month. You know, it was about a week late or something, but we were like, okay, well, hopefully the next one's going to come on time. And then that got delayed. And we only got part of it. Then it got delayed, and it got delayed. And then we were still like, no more delays, no more waiting around. Let's all go back. It's going to be hard for us to claim this money, but at the end of the day, we've got to cut our losses, you know? So yeah, the last couple of months, I think we got like half of one payment. You know what I mean? Like we never got like the last couple of months of payment. I didn't realize until after we'd left that all the local guys that he'd roped in, all the Malaysian wrestlers who, a lot of them had quit their jobs to like wrestle full time, they never got any payment.
Oh, that's fucked.
And it wasn't just the Malaysian wrestlers, the camera crew.
Oh.
I think the first show was properly paid for, but on that second show, the camera crew was never paid, so they ended up just deleting the footage. Like, Shawkat, like, he's currently releasing footage from like the first few shows, but I think he might only have access to maybe the first and possibly third show. You know what I mean? Like, entire chunks of it are just deleted now because they didn't get paid, so they weren't going to hold on to it, you know. So
of course,
yeah. So the camera crew didn't get paid. I don't think the driver was like, who drove us all down on a massive bus, was like just doing it as a favor. You know what I mean? Like, tons of people basically didn't get paid. So
that's so fucked.
And the room that we were staying in was only paid up until like March of that year or something like that. So one day Mika came home and was just like, all the stuff's out in like the lobby. What the hell's going on?
They evicted him. Jesus.
So yeah, he lived out the last of his time there in like a Malaysian hotel. And I wouldn't be surprised if like that wasn't properly paid for either, you know, like just yeah.
That just blows my mind, and how recent it was as well. It's just like that's some carny ass shit.
It really is. We all joked around like I think Dave Smith or Dave something, like the name he gave us, like it sounds so generic. Do you guys reckon it's his real name? Like, oh, I reckon he's like working as hey, you know, like we were all convinced. And like we had so much time on our hands too, so the conspiracy theories just went all over the place. You know, like is this guy involved in like local like mafia or some shit? Like how the fuck is he like managing to get away with all this stuff? But whatever he is, he's dodgy as hell, and I'm glad that he's no longer involved in wrestling.
Yeah, man. Like the wrestling industry worldwide needs less people like that in it, which
Oh,
just literally taking advantage of people and building up hopes and dreams just to sort of fuck people over essentially. But do you think this guy actually like believed his own hype, or do you think like he was just scamming people?
I think he believed I really do think that mentality of like fake it till you make it, like convince everyone that you're a big time player and that you've got like top level talent and you've got an amazing product. And I think he gave that exact same sort of story to like every network that he came across and all that. And just like us, he wasn't able to convince them, like,
Mm.
he's obviously like gave off, because he gave off the same veneer to us. It's like, this guy is full of it, like it's clear
People
that like,
smell the bullshit a mile away.
yeah, exactly. So I wasn't that surprised that like the television deal, didn't end up coming through and all that, like the plan was just, oh, we're just going to shoot all this and then try and sell it. And it's just like, okay, with what money? Like, oh, no, don't worry about that. I'll get that sorted. It's all coming through any day now.
Shit, it sounds like you read Paul Heyman's book of how to run a business into the ground.
Yeah. And yeah, he read Paul Heyman's book and took the complete wrong message from it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But as far as like now, living in the UK, long-term plans. Do you want to come back to Australia, or do you want to stay over there and continue to work shows over there and stay in the UK long term?
That's the thing. We're just sort of like playing it by ear now because obviously we're on a 2-year. We're on a 2-year visa when we came over here, and that's maybe like 5-6 months away now. So we're already gone through the first year and a half. So yeah, I don't know. Like, I know my wife's pretty much sick of it right now because she's earning less money than what she used to, and still working like pretty crazy hours. It's a much more like demanding system over here. Like, especially with the COVID and everything, like the number of patients she has to deal with is like way bigger than what she would in Australia. So I think it really depends on like, once we can start to travel around and have a bit more fun, we might decide to stick around. But I'm just gonna see. Like, the country has really only opened up these past few months, so I haven't been able to experience the UK this whole time. We had a bit of the opening up towards the end of last year. That didn't last because things, totally fell apart. Hopefully this time it doesn't. And, if things start looking up and we get to have a better time over here and enjoy ourselves more, I think we'll probably stick around. But yeah, we're just sort of like seeing what happens, like what else can you do? And it doesn't help that like, even now getting back to Australia is expensive, but yeah, it's not cheap to stay either. Like, we have to pay for our visas and everything. So
that's right. That's a bit rough as well. Like, surely there can be something that can be worked out.
Yeah, it just sucks that like I knew it was going to take a few months to sort of make connections and start reaching out to people and stuff. I'm only really starting to do that now, so best case scenario, if we leave early next year, is that I end up working a handful of shows in a few different places. But it would have been nice to really, be a part of the scene over here. But
yeah,
what can you do,
Absolutely. But as far as you as a performer and you as a character, with your character, what is it that you try and project to the crowd? Because from sounds of it, like, you really sort of enjoy the heel sort of side of work. Is that what your preference is, to work heel? And like, what is your character when you go out? What are you trying to present and portray to the crowd and to the audience?
Yeah, I definitely prefer working heel in general. Like, I was a baby face the first like 3-4 years of my career, and I was always fine at it, but it wasn't until I was a heel that I really started having fun, just because it's so much more fun to antagonize a crowd than trying to get them on your side. Like getting people to hate you, much easier than getting people to like you, because you really have to be committed to be a really good baby face. And yeah, my natural sort of personality is like I'm pretty like quiet and keep to myself and all that. So it isn't unless I'm projecting myself like a heel and just going in the complete opposite direction. I find it hard to sort of like really like project myself as a baby face like that. So yeah, it's just I don't know. I've had a lot more fun working as a heel. And that was
where else can you like go out in a room full of people and be a complete dickhead?
Yeah,
and get the reaction that you want from it.
Yeah, I remember my wife initially being like, "Oh, I can't ever boo you," and I was just like, "No, I want you to. Please boo me." And now she boos me every show, whether on face or heel. So,
but how's your wife feel about the wrestling? Like, obviously, like she must be a big supporter of yours to say, "Hey, let's move over to the other side of the world," and so you can have a crack at this.
Yeah, no, I mean, she's been my rock throughout all of this. Like, she supported me when I wanted to go and wrestle in Malaysia. She was terrified because she was like, "You're going to a country where English isn't the first language, like to wrestle for someone you've never met before." And I was like, "Yep." She's like, "Okay."
It sounds like she's got that common sense part where she's like, "So let me get this straight. This is how it's going to go down." You're like, "Yep." She's like, "All right, fuck. Let's see how this plans out."
And then, but she supported me through all of this. Like she's a fan of wrestling herself. Like it was one of the things that we both sort of bonded over when we originally met. So, and like I said, she was the one who introduced me to Mana, and which helped me like get into wrestling and everything. So like she's been there through pretty much the whole journey and supported me the whole way. So, but this has definitely been like a real test, to move to another country and straight away go into lockdown and have nothing happen for a year and a half, and for her to be working in really stressful conditions this whole time. It's just, yeah, it's been a bit of a test for the both of us, but she supports me. And
mentally stressful as well. Like that would like really push you out.
Yeah, like we're both like pretty close to our families, and not seeing them for a year and a half. Families go through like health concerns and stuff, and you can't be there to see them. It's been a tough, it's been a tough time living over here pretty much by ourselves. Like we support each other, but we don't have that like big social group that we had in Perth.
Yeah, 100%. It's and I think until you're not away from your support network, you really don't. It's hard for you to really appreciate it until you've got that separation.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But yeah, look, guys, it is that time of the show where it is 60 seconds with Piers. We've told Aaron about it, or I should say, warned him about it. How this is going to go down. I'm going to fire questions at Aaron. He's got 60 seconds to answer as many of these as he can. As you know, we like to have a lot of fun here on the MWA Podcast Network, especially on Shooting the Shit. Aaron, you let me know when you're ready to go, and we'll start the clock and we'll get this going.
All right. Ready as I'll ever be,
Which Chris is hotter, Hemsworth, Evans, or Pratt?
Oh, Hemsworth.
One has to go. Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, or Harry Potter?
Harry Potter.
In 5 minutes, you are being shipped to outer space. What two personal belongings, excluding humans, do you take with you?
My laptop to play games on, and God, would weights even work in space? I don't know. Exercise band.
Name a gross meal combo that you like that no one else does.
Oh, I don't think I'm that adventurous. Pass. Let me think about that one.
Which board game do you always win at?
I always win at Snakes and Ladders.
If you could win an Olympic gold medal in any sport besides wrestling, what would it be?
Olympic weightlifting.
Would you rather own your own boat or own your own plane?
Boat.
As a child, what did you get in trouble the most for?
God. Probably just running off and doing my own thing. Like, parents never knew where I was.
What was the first concert you ever went to?
That's a good one. I want to say Powderfinger.
What is the weirdest thing you have ever eaten?
When I was in Japan, I forget what the name of it is. My wife got like it's basically like raw horse meat.
Yeah.
I had a taste of that. So.
Oh, gross. If you could sit down and have a beer with one professional wrestler, past or present, who would it be?
Like living or
past or present, yeah.
Eddie Guerrero.
Awesome choice. That is time, and that has been some amazing answers. Aaron, thank you so much for being a guest on Shooting the Shit. This hour just absolutely flew by. I'd definitely love to get you back on for a part 2 if you're down for it some stage down the track. But where can everyone find you on social media?
I keep it very simple. Mean Man O'Malley, all one word, all social media. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I probably had a Snapchat at some point that I never used, but you know what I mean? Like everywhere. Mean Man O'Malley.
There you go. And is there anywhere where people can get some merch of yours?
Because I've been wrestling, I haven't set anything up recently, which is crazy because I have like a suitcase full of t-shirts that I've been wanting to sell for the past 2 years. So, but yeah, coming soon.
There you go. Once you got that, you just let us know.
Yeah.
But guys, thank you for tuning in live, and also if you're watching the replay of this, thank you very much for tuning in. Guys, huge shout out to our sponsors, the Wrestling Universe, Sleeps.com, and healthvape.com. Please go out, check out our sponsors, support our sponsors, helps us out, helps them out, and you guys get a great deal as well. Make sure you tune in the morning, or I should say evening, in the US for Killing the Business with ECW Original, the Kingpin, Angel Medina, and his crew. These guys are going to be breaking down a lot of shit this week, and hopefully they can keep Angel under control, because you know he likes to fly off at the mouth. But guys, also make sure you tune in for Nights at the Gimmick Table on Sunday night with the Dead Presidents. They're joined by Homicide, and then next week with Kiwi on his show Get Funked. He's going to have a very special guest, which we're going to be announcing very, very soon. So keep an eye out for that. Keep an eye out what I've got coming up on Shooting the Shit. But Aaron, thanks again, man. Keep safe, and man, looking forward to watching a couple of your matches that you've been doing over in the UK, man.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Take it easy, and we'll catch you soon, guys. Peace.